It was the night before my wedding. I was too nervous and excited to sleep, and I ended up stumbling upon my fiancée Isabella's private TikTok account. The video's caption was for that viral 3 glasses of wine trend. The first glass is for Caleb Vance. Thank you for coming into my life and bringing me so much joy and happiness. The second glass is for Caleb Vance. Thank you for staying by my side, even when you knew we couldn't be official, ignoring what the world would think. And the third glass is also for Caleb Vance. Thank you for giving me the greatest gift in the world. From this day forward, our little family of 3 will be happy together and never be apart. My wedding is tomorrow, and this is the only way I can make it up to you. In the video, Isabella held up her glass, smiling through tears. The Caleb she was toasting was her first love, the one she could never truly have. The background was unmistakably our new home. Our professionally shot wedding photos were hanging on the bedroom wall. A chill ran through my body, as if I had been plunged into an icy abyss. My fiancée, on the very last night before our wedding, was in our new home, wearing the custom gown I had designed for her and professing her love and regret for another man. At the end of the video, Caleb leaned in and gave Isabella a long, passionate kiss on the forehead. I thought back to the iMessage she had sent me just minutes before. Thinking of you. Can't sleep when you're not here. The irony was crushing. Well, since the stage was already set, it felt like it would be a shame if I did not do something about it. I took out my phone and used the smart home control system to disable all manual overrides. Then I locked the doors and windows tight, and I cranked the bedroom thermostat all the way up to 176 degrees Fahrenheit. Using the excuse that it is bad luck for the bride and groom to see each other the day before the wedding, Isabella had said good night to me early. I never imagined that while I was overcome with joy about finally marrying the woman of my dreams, my bride-to-be was in our new home, locked in a passionate embrace with her lover. Our new home was a scenic villa overlooking the bay in Miami. It was my wedding gift to Isabella. It was also where I had proposed to her. For Isabella to choose this place to fool around with Caleb, it was obvious she had absolutely no respect for me. Perhaps I had always been too good to her. It made her forget that I, Davis Miller, am not a nice guy. If you have the nerve to betray me, you better have the courage to face the consequences. On the security feed, Isabella and Caleb were staring deeply into each other's eyes, the connection between them palpable. They moved closer and closer together. Soon, their lips met. The temperature in the room began to climb rapidly. It did not take long for them to realize something was wrong. The room was getting incredibly hot. Isabella's face was flushed bright red, and she was dripping with sweat. Caleb was not faring any better. They finally looked at the thermostat and saw that the indoor temperature was already 113 degrees Fahrenheit. At first, neither of them thought much of it. They figured someone must have bumped the controls by accident and that they could just turn it down. But the next moment, they both stared in disbelief. Isabella and Caleb discovered to their horror that the thermostat was completely unresponsive. No matter what buttons they pushed, nothing happened. Meanwhile, the temperature displayed on the screen just kept climbing higher. They tried to open a window, but found it was sealed shut. They tried to open the door, but it was locked tight. The temperature was rising incredibly fast. Within minutes, it hit 176 degrees. Isabella and Caleb were so hot, they were gasping for air. They wanted to call for help, but realized their phones were not in the room. They were left like 2 fish out of water, desperately gulping for air. A cold smile touched my lips. I quietly savored the looks of desperation on their faces. I timed it perfectly, waiting until they were just about to pass out from the heat before I dropped the temperature. Caleb, the temperature is dropping. Isabella was so relieved she was almost in tears. But before her smile could fully form, they both sensed something else was wrong. The temperature was definitely falling, but it passed freezing and just kept going. It did not finally start to slow until it hit negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Isabella and Caleb were shivering uncontrollably. The only thing in the bedroom was a thin summer blanket. Huddling under it did absolutely nothing to help. "Do you think Davis found out something? That he's doing this to us?" Caleb asked, his teeth chattering so hard he could barely speak. It was not that he was paranoid, but the whole situation was just too bizarre. "No way," Isabella said confidently. "Davis is a complete moron. He trusts me completely. Besides, I had Mrs. Gable put a sleeping pill in his milk every night. You should be out cold right now." Her tone was absolute, the scorn and contempt in her eyes completely undisguised. I shot a cold glance at the glass of milk on my nightstand. So even the person I trusted most in my household had been bought off by Isabella. No wonder she was so bold as to bring her lover into our new home. But she had no idea my stomach had been bothering me, so tonight I had not touched the milk. Just like before, right as they were on the verge of freezing, I cranked the heat back up. I repeated the cycle over and over. I waited until dawn. Only then did I unlock the doors and set the thermostat back to normal, watching Isabella and Caleb's pathetic figures as they scrambled away. I let out a cold, sharp laugh. "Isabella, Caleb, I hope you enjoy the big surprise I have in store for you." At 9 o'clock in the morning, a fleet of luxury cars was gathered at the marina. The largest, most opulent yacht in Miami was moored peacefully on the water. Because Isabella wanted a unique and romantic wedding, I had arranged for the ceremony to be held on the yacht. Isabella sat in the bridal suite after being tortured all night. Even a thick layer of foundation could not hide the dark, bruised look under her eyes. "Where's the groom? Why isn't he here yet?" someone asked. It was only then that people realized the man of the hour, was nowhere to be seen. Isabella frowned, pulling out her phone to call me. The line just kept ringing, unanswered. A sudden sense of unease washed over her, a feeling that something terrible was about to happen. Just as the ceremony was about to start, I finally made my grand, late entrance. The knot in Isabella's stomach finally loosened. She was annoyed, but there was no time to scold me. It was our cue to begin. The officiant held the microphone up and asked, "Davis, do you take Isabella to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do you part?" I gave a slight smile. "I don't." A stunned silence fell over the entire crowd. Everyone, including Isabella, assumed I had misspoken out of nervousness. "What did you just say?" she hissed. I said, "I don't." I repeated slowly, looking right at her. "Davis, you're joking, right?" she stammered, her smile faltering. "This is not a funny joke." The smiles on Mr. and Mrs. Johnson's faces slowly vanished. I scoffed. "Who said I was joking?" The venue fell into a dead silence. The guests just stared at each other, completely bewildered. Everyone knew how madly in love with Isabella the First was. They could not understand why I would publicly call off the wedding now, when I was finally getting everything I ever wanted, and do it so brutally. A look of shock and fury flashed in Isabella's eyes. She never imagined that I, the guy who had always groveled at her feet, would humiliate her in front of everyone. Not wanting to become a public laughingstock, and knowing the Johnson family could not afford the consequences of a canceled wedding, Isabella swallowed her rage and put on a pitiful, wronged expression. "Did I do something wrong? Just tell me, and I'll fix it. Okay?" she pleaded, her voice cracking. "Today is our wedding day. I'm begging you, please do not cause a scene." In the past, I could never stand to see Isabella cry. The moment she shed a single tear, my heart would break. It did not matter who was right or wrong. I would always be the first to apologize. It was a trick she had used on me time and time again. But now, seeing her tears, all I felt was disgust. Crying, Isabella reached for my hand. My expression hardened, and I recoiled sharply. "Don't touch me." I looked at her as if she were something filthy, the disgust in my eyes perfectly clear. Isabella froze, her tears stopping midstream. Caleb frowned, stepping forward. "Davis, do not take this too far. You're lucky to be marrying a woman as beautiful as Isabella. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Do not forget, you're the one who chased her relentlessly for 3 years. You proposed to her dozens of times before she finally said yes." I allowed a cold laugh. "And who the hell are you? This is between me and her. It has got nothing to do with you." I shot a contemptuous look at Isabella and sneered. "Beautiful? Do not insult the word. In my eyes, Isabella is nothing but filthy trash. Davis, Isabella shrieked. Her fury was boiling over. It was bad enough that I had humiliated her by calling off the wedding, but now I was calling her trash. She could not contain her rage any longer. What is the meaning of this, Davis? She screamed. What right do you have to say that to me? You better explain yourself right now, or I will never forgive you. Isabella was so enraged her chest was heaving, and her hand pointing at me was shaking uncontrollably. That's right, Mr. Johnson boomed, his face red with humiliation from the unfolding disaster. If you do not explain yourself this instant, it will not just be Isabella who will not forgive you. We will not either. Forgive me, I scoffed, as if I give a damn about your forgiveness. You, Mr. Johnson sputtered, so taken aback he nearly choked. Seeing things escalating, Mrs. Johnson forced a strained, placating smile. Davis, what is all this about? If something is wrong, if you've been wronged in some way, just tell us. We'll make it right. Fine, I said, giving Isabella and Caleb a long, meaningful look. I then turned back to the stunned and confused guests. I'm sure you're all as curious as Mrs. Johnson here, wondering why I would suddenly call off a perfectly good wedding in front of everyone. Well, I'm about to show you something interesting. A wave of panic hit Isabella. She wanted to stop me, but it was too late. The second I finished speaking, the large screen behind the stage flickered to life. A moment later, the faces of Isabella and Caleb filled the screen. It was the video from the previous night, the one of her 3 glasses of wine toast. The wedding dress she wore in the video was the exact same one she was wearing now. The color drained from Isabella's face. Beside her, Caleb's expression changed instantly. They exchanged a look and understood immediately everything that happened last night. Just as Caleb had suspected, it had been my doing. The only thing they could not figure out was how. How was I, who should have been drugged and unconscious, not only awake, but also aware of their affair? The video kept playing. When a guest saw Isabella and Caleb wrapped in a passionate embrace at the end, a collective gasp went through the crowd. Oh my God. So Isabella was cheating on Davis with this Caleb guy, someone whispered loudly. I mean, cheating is one thing, but doing it in your wedding dress in their new house? That's a whole new level of shameless. No wonder Davis called it off. He was being made a fool of the whole time. In an instant, the entire venue erupted in chaos. Everyone was pointing and whispering about Isabella. Her face turned crimson with a mixture of shame and fury. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson's faces had also changed. Beyond disbelief, there was a rising panic in their eyes. Mr. Johnson glanced nervously at me. When he saw the cold, knowing smile on my face, his own face went pale. The thought of the $10 million investment he was about to secure vanishing into thin air sent a surge of rage through him. Is that really you in the video? He roared at his daughter. How could you do something so disgraceful? Dad, Faced with her father's furious questions, Isabella stammered, unable to form a single word. Seeing how bad things were getting, Caleb began to quietly back away, trying to sneak out unnoticed. I let out a cold laugh. We're not finished here. Where do you think you're going, Mr. Vance? Instantly, every head in the room turned to look at Caleb, who was hunched over trying to escape. Caleb avoided everyone's gaze, his guilt obvious. His attempt to flee was all the confirmation anyone needed of his affair with Isabella. You disgrace, Mr. Johnson shouted, slapping Isabella hard across the face. Dad, Isabella clutched her stinging cheek, staring at her father in disbelief. In her entire life, he had never once laid a hand on her. Looking at her father's furious expression, Isabella knew she had truly screwed up this time. Seeing me turn to leave, she lunged forward and grabbed the sleeve of my jacket. Davis, please listen to me. It's a misunderstanding. I laughed coldly. Isabella, do I look like a fool to you? A misunderstanding? Then please tell me, what exactly were you two doing? Practicing couples yoga, perhaps? Isabella's breath caught in her throat as she met my mocking gaze. Caught in the act and still trying to deny it. The nerve of some people, someone in the crowd yelled out. Isabella's face flushed a deep, ugly red. I, meanwhile, calmly enjoyed watching her squirm. My calm demeanor must have provoked her, because she suddenly flew into a rage. So I had one last fling before getting married. Is it really such a big deal that you have to drag it out like this? I stared at Isabella, utterly stunned. Her words were so twisted they left me speechless. I never knew someone could be so brazen and self-righteous about cheating. Even the guests were looking at her in shock. But Isabella's arrogant voice continued. If you really cannot get over it, then you can go have a fling of your own. I will not stop you. That makes us even, 1 for 1. Fair is fair, right? God, you're a grown man. Stop being so petty. I cannot listen to any more of her delusional nonsense. I held up a hand to cut her off. Enough. No matter what you say, this wedding is over. I turned to the guests with an apologetic look. I'm sorry, everyone, but the wedding is canceled. With that, I unpinned the boutonniere from my lapel, threw it at Isabella's feet, and walked off the stage without a backward glance. Seeing that my mind was made up, Isabella knew it was hopeless and decided to drop the act. She ripped the veil from her head, threw it on the floor, and spat. Fine, do not marry me. Who do you think wants to marry you, anyway? If it was not for your money, I never would have put up with you for a second. I'm telling you, Davis, if you walk out that door today, I would not marry you again, even if you came crawling back on your knees. I let out a low chuckle. Then I suppose I should thank you for sparing me, I said, ignoring Isabella, who looked like she was about to have an aneurysm. I boarded the waiting speedboat and left without a moment's hesitation. Even as the boat sped away, I could still hear Isabella's hysterical screams and the furious curses of her parents echoing across the water. However, an even bigger shock was waiting for them on the return trip. Just as the yacht was a few hundred feet from the shore, its engines suddenly cut out. The captain emerged, looking apologetic. My apologies, everyone. I have just received new orders. We are to stop here and await further instructions. For the time being, I'm afraid we cannot return to the dock. A wave of panic went through the guests. What? How are we supposed to get back to shore? I have a meeting to get to. Me too. I have a multi-million-dollar deal to close. Another guest shouted. Mr. Johnson, you invited us all here. What are you going to do about this? The yacht erupted into chaos. Every single guest had been invited by the Johnson family, and now they all turned on Mr. Johnson, demanding answers. Orders? Whose orders? Isabella demanded arrogantly. I'm the owner of this yacht. I'm ordering you to take us to shore right now. Because I had always indulged her, Isabella had come to think of the yacht as her own, constantly throwing parties for her friends. She had completely forgotten that the yacht's true owner was a Miller, not a Johnson. Since Isabella chose to betray me, she would have to pay the price for that choice, starting now. I was revoking every privilege I had ever given her. Did you not hear me? She snapped when the captain did not move. Her face darkened as she pointed a finger at him. I'll have you fired. You hear me? Fired. She then pointed to another crew member. You're the new captain. Start the boat now. But that crewman did not move either, completely ignoring her command. The captain remained calm, a polite smile on his face. I'm sorry, Miss Johnson, but you do not have the authority to give us orders. Our records show that Mr. Davis Miller is the sole owner of this vessel. We only take orders from him. Davis, you son of a bitch, Isabella hissed through clenched teeth. Furious, she whipped out her phone and tried to call me. The call connected, but I let it ring. In a fit of rage, Isabella smashed her phone against the deck. Isabella, calm down, Caleb began, trying to comfort her and show his supportive side. But he was cut off by Mr. Johnson, who pointed a trembling finger at his face. You bastard, this is all your fault, and you had the nerve to show your face at the wedding. Get out of my sight. Get the hell away from my family. The more Mr. Johnson yelled, the angrier he became. He then turned on Isabella. And you're just as useless. If you're going to cheat, at least be smart enough to cover your tracks. Now look what has happened. That $10 million investment is gone, just like that. He had planned to use this wedding to show off in front of all his friends and business partners. Instead, not only had he lost the $10 million, but he had been utterly humiliated. The remaining guests looked on, aghast. Like father, like daughter, they say. With a father with such twisted morals, it was no surprise he had a daughter as shameless as Isabella. Seeing Mr. Johnson getting more and more worked up, Caleb quickly slunk away into the crowd. The Johnsons tried to call for another boat to come and get them, but they were informed that they were in a private waterway and no unauthorized vessels were allowed to enter. The Johnsons were on the verge of tears, completely helpless. They could not stay on a yacht forever. In the end, gritting their teeth, the guests put on life jackets and began jumping into the water one by one. The moment the cold ocean water hit them, the guests' hatred for the Johnson family reached its absolute peak. Whoever heard of going to a wedding and having to swim back to shore? Isabella could not swim. Between her survival instinct and Caleb dragging her, she finally made it to the shore, completely exhausted. But before she could climb out of the water, a speedboat raced past them, kicking up a massive wake. The wave crashed over Isabella, and she swallowed several mouthfuls of salty water. "Bastard," she sputtered, choking and furious. The Johnson family finally made it home, looking like drowned rats. Achoo! Isabella let out a huge sneeze. After the ordeal of the last 24 hours, even the strongest constitution would have given out. Isabella had caught a cold. Just as Isabella was mentally cursing my entire family tree, her father's phone rang. He had barely answered when his assistant's panicked voice came through the speaker. "Mr. Johnson, sir. It's a disaster." "What is it?" "Get a hold of yourself. You're a manager," Mr. Johnson snapped, annoyed. For some reason, a knot of dread formed in Isabella's stomach. "Sir, several of our biggest, long-term clients just sent contract termination notices, all at the same time. They're canceling all current and future projects with us, effective immediately." "What?" Mr. Johnson shot up from the couch. The news was like a lightning strike. Everyone knew that for the past few years, the Johnson Corporation's profits depended almost entirely on those clients. Without them, the company was finished. After hanging up, Mr. Johnson frantically started calling the clients himself, but the calls went straight to voicemail, one after another. It was the same with all of them. It was like they had all coordinated to ignore his calls. "Look what you've done," Mr. Johnson roared at Isabella, clutching his chest. All of those clients had only started working with the Johnson family as a favor to me. Now that I had publicly broken off the engagement, they were all pulling out. Even an idiot could see the connection. "It's just business," Isabella said defiantly. "I refuse to believe we cannot land deals without Davis Miller." The next day, with Kayla by her side, she went to Apex Electronics. Apex was the Johnson Corporation's biggest client. Isabella was confident that if she could win them back, the others would follow. But the confident Isabella could not even get past the front desk. "I'm sorry," the receptionist said politely. "Mr. Peterson is unavailable. He asked me to tell you to please leave." Humiliated and frustrated, Isabella had no choice but to leave. After being turned away 3 more times at other companies, she finally began to realize this was more serious than she had thought. Sitting in the car, Isabella's anger grew with every passing second. She pulled out her phone to call me, only to discover that she could not. I had already deleted her number and blocked her. "Asshole!" she screamed, throwing her phone onto the passenger seat. She wrenched the steering wheel and sped off, heading straight for my house. "Davis, get out here!" she shrieked, pounding on my front door. "Stop pretending you're not home. I know you're in there." I opened the door slowly, meeting Isabella's bloodshot, furious eyes. "Can I help you?" I asked, leaning casually against the doorframe. "Davis, I know you're behind what's happening to my family's company," she accused. "You're just angry, and you're trying to get revenge on me, aren't you? Well, you've gotten what you wanted. My family is humiliated, and the company is about to go bankrupt. So now we're even. All you have to do is stop this, give a sincere apology to me and my parents, and double the wedding gift you promised. If you do that, I'm willing to forgive you and forget this ever happened. Our engagement can still be on, and we can just pick a new date for the wedding," she continued, her voice filled with an unbelievable sense of entitlement. I could not believe what I was hearing. Isabella had just set a new standard for the word shameless. "Are you finished?" I asked. It was only then that she seemed to notice my blank expression, the complete absence of any emotion on my face. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes, but she quickly tried to cover it. "Yes, that's all for now," she said, trying to sound composed. "I'll let you know if I think of anything else." I could not stop a short, harsh laugh from escaping. I glanced up at the sky. "It's not even dark out. A little early to be dreaming, don't you think, Isabella?" "You," she sputtered, her face flushing at my mocking tone. Remembering why she was there, she swallowed her anger. "Don't you love me? I'm giving you a chance to fix this." Her audacity was once again stunning. I gave a cold laugh. "And just because I loved you, that give you the right to trample all over my feelings? Do I seem that pathetic to you? What on earth makes you think I would ever take back a woman who sleeps around?" 3 years ago, Caleb had left Isabella and moved abroad. She was heartbroken. At the same time, the Johnson family business was on the brink of bankruptcy. I was the one who gave them $1 million to save the company from ruin. Isabella could not thank me enough, and I was the one who stayed by her side and helped her get over the pain of a breakup. To be with her, I swallowed my pride and lost myself completely. I did not even care when people call me a pathetic simp for her. The day Isabella accepted my proposal, I wept with joy. I swore to myself that I would spend the rest of my life with her, that I would never leave her side. What a shame all that love was completely wasted. It turned out she had never gotten over Caleb. She did not have to love me, but she should not have lied to me. Cheating on me was one thing, but she was also after my money, planning to marry me while pregnant with another man's child. Where in the world does that happen? We could have had an amicable, dignified breakup, but Isabella and Caleb were just too greedy. Isabella's face went from pale to red, a mixture of shame and anger. Caleb stepped up to me, shaking his fist. "Davis, do not push your luck. You're lucky Isabella ever agreed to marry you. Not only are you ungrateful, you have the nerve to insult her. Apologize to her right now, or else." Thud. Before Caleb could finish his threat, my fist connected squarely with his face. "Who let this stray dog off its leash? Keep barking, and I'll knock out every last one of your teeth." Blood started pouring from both of Caleb's nostrils. He had tried to intimidate me, and I had shut him down instantly. Caleb lost it, swinging a wild punch as he lunged at me. "Davis, you motherf." But all I did was casually raise my fist again. Caleb froze mid-step, a look of pure fear in his eyes. Seeing what a coward he was, I scoffed. "Caleb, you're nothing. You really think you can act tough in front of me? I suggest you stay put and keep your mouth shut. Do not provoke me, or I might just have to tell everyone about your little secrets from your time abroad." A flicker of panic crossed Caleb's eyes, and he swallowed hard, clearly nervous. But then Isabella jumped in. "Davis, stop trying to drive a wedge between us. You're just jealous of him. Let me tell you something. In my eyes, Caleb is 1,000 times the man you'll ever be. I'll believe him over you any day," she declared, giving Caleb a reassuring look. His tense posture immediately relaxed. Looking at Isabella's furious, defensive face, I had to wonder if Caleb had some kind of hold over her. She was a lost cause. Well, if they were this determined to be a dysfunctional pair, one enabling the other, then there was no reason for me to get in their way. "Are you two finished?" I asked. "Because if you are, it's my turn. You've come at the perfect time. Actually, save me a trip." With that, I pulled out a document. It was an itemized list of every single dollar I'd spent on Isabella and the Johnson family over the past 3 years. $12 million, she shrieked when she saw the final total. "Where am I supposed to get that kind of money?" "That's your problem, not mine. I'll give you 3 days to wire the full amount to my account. Otherwise, you can expect to be served by my lawyers." With that, I walked past them, got into my sport car, and drove away. As my car disappeared down the street, Caleb let out a contemptuous snort. "Please," he said, his voice dripping with jealousy. "What a show-off." Caleb watched my car disappear down the road, then turned to see the worried expression on Isabella's face. He cleared his throat. "Don't worry, baby. Once my new venture takes off, we'll be rolling in money. 12 million will be nothing to us. You'll be able to buy anything you want." Caleb sold her a beautiful dream with a heartfelt expression. Isabella nodded, looking touched. But then her thoughts returned to the company's dire situation, and her hopeful expression faded. Caleb quickly reassured her. It's fine. I have a lot of connections overseas. Even if the Johnson Corporation loses its domestic partners, we can just expand internationally. Really? She asked, her eyes lighting up. Caleb swore it was true. His confident promises were like a magic pill, and Isabella's worries instantly vanished, replaced by a renewed sense of hope. I thought that after everything that had happened, my disastrous connection to Isabella was finally over. I was wrong. A month later, early one morning, I found a surprise. I opened my front door to find Isabella kneeling on my doorstep. She was gaunt, her cheeks hollowed out, a shadow of the vibrant, confident woman she used to be. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Davis, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I was wrong. I truly know that now. I was just so confused, and I let that bastard Caleb trick me with his lies," she said, her voice choked with emotion, her face a mask of regret. In the past, her tears would have broken my heart. Even a slight frown would have made me ache for her. But now, looking at the crying woman before me, I felt absolutely nothing. "Are you done?" I asked flatly. "If you're done, you can go. I have zero interest in your drama with Caleb." My cold indifference seemed to catch her off guard, and fresh tears streamed down her face. "Davis, I regret it. I really, truly regret everything." When I remained unmoved, she grew desperate. "Caleb is a monster. He tricked me." It turned out Caleb had lied about all his overseas connections. He had convinced Isabella he could save her family's company by taking it international, and she, believing him completely, had given him full control. Of course, he had colluded with a third party to completely gut the Johnson Corporation from the inside. By the time Isabella realized what had happened, the company was nothing but an empty shell buried under a mountain of debt. The shock sent her father to the hospital with a stroke, leaving him bedridden. When Isabella went to confront Caleb, he had her thrown out onto the street without a second thought. He threw a few $100s at her and told her to go get an abortion. It was only then, seeing him with a wealthy older woman, that she finally understood what I had tried to warn her about. Caleb was nothing more than a gigolo who lived off wealthy women. The real reason he had left her all those years ago was because he had found a richer patron. But that woman had quickly grown tired of him and kicked him to the curb. Broke and with no real skills, Caleb had gone back to his old ways, working as an escort to find a new benefactor. Unfortunately for him, he had accidentally slept with a mob boss's mistress, and he had to flee the country with a price on his head, which led him right back to the naive and ever-forgiving Isabella. Realizing she had been played for a fool, Isabella was consumed by regret, and that is what brought her shamelessly to my door. "Davis," she cried, "I finally realized you were the only one who ever truly cared about me." She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. "So now that Caleb has dumped you, you've come running back to your personal ATM?" Her face fell at my sarcastic tone. "Davis, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, just give me one more chance." She grabbed onto my arm, clinging to me like I was her last hope, her plea both desperate and pathetic. I ignored the flicker of hope in her eyes and slowly, deliberately pried her fingers from my arm. "No," I said, my voice flat and final. In that moment, the last bit of light in her eyes died. Her face went slack and gray, as if her very soul had been extinguished. A heavy weight settled in her chest, making it hard to breathe. It was only then that she finally, truly accepted the fact that I no longer loved her. Isabella left. The next time I heard about her was a week later on the local news. She was dead, and so was Caleb. The crushing debt, her mother's failing health, her father's paralysis, the overwhelming pressure of it all had become too much for Isabella to bear. She blamed Caleb for every terrible thing that had happened to her. Why should she be suffering while he was out, living lavishly on her family's stolen money? Blinded by rage, Isabella decided that if she was going down, she was taking Caleb with her. She stalked him for days, waiting for the right opportunity. She found it when a drunken Caleb stumbled out of a karaoke bar late one night. from her car across the street. Isabella floored the accelerator. There was a sickening crunch. Caleb was thrown several yards through the air before he hit the pavement with a heavy thud. He was dead before the paramedics even arrived, lying in a rapidly growing pool of his own blood. Isabella did not fare any better. Her car slammed head-on into a steel light pole, and she was killed instantly. When Mrs. Johnson heard the news, she had a fatal heart attack that left only Mr. Johnson paralyzed and alone in his hospital bed. The house was seized by creditors, and with no one left to care for him, Mr. Johnson was discharged and left on the street. He froze to death a few nights later. When I heard what had happened, all I felt was a brief sense of pity, but that was all. You reap what you sow. The Johnson family brought this fate upon themselves. I did not have time to mourn for them. I had more important things to do with my life.